I played Donkey Kong Bananza. This was a trip and a half. On the one hand, this game is like the game version of Crashing Out. Like, I can go where I want, how I want, whenever I want, and all that for bananas again. Of course it's bananas. Like, this is such an evolution for, you know, DK style-wise and, you know, control-wise, but gotta give Buddy credit. He never switched up on us. He went from going after baddies in the 80s to bananas in the 90s and hasn't switched up since. You gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. I don't know if there's any Nintendo platformer that plays quite like this. Visually, it's definitely Odyssey inspired. I wouldn't be surprised if some minor world assets were reused from Odyssey into this. But the destructible world makes it feel almost like a sandbox game, the way you don't really have a clear direction and you carve your own path forward through the terrain. I really like that. Donkey Kong's movement was a tad finicky, but I got used to it and was able to even find some movement techniques like this mid-air roll. I will say, this is getting a lot of Odyssey comparisons, but it doesn't really have that same kind of precise snappiness that Odyssey does. Like I said earlier, it's a different kind of game, but I do prefer my platformers to feel a little more tight. This game feels like it embraces the complete opposite direction of, you know, tight, precise controls. Everything in this game controls so loosely. When you play as Donkey Kong, it almost feels like you're playing as a giant ape, and honestly, it surprisingly fits, believe it or not. But yeah, it's bombastic. It's Bananza. It might be too much for the Switch to handle sometimes. When you break like a banana crystal or like the terrain and there's like a lot of particles around, the game will start freaking out a little bit on occasion. Like just some, you know, just some frame dips, but considering this is, what, the second first-party game Nintendo's putting out on this new console, it's not a great sign. I mean, sure, Breath of the Wild was the first first-party game on Switch, and that had frame dips, but I think there's going to be a lot less getting away with that kind of thing this time because the concept of, like, hey, you can play these games on the go is way less novel. I think that reason might also be why the visuals of the world in the demo weren't very interesting. You start off inside the mine to kind of get a feel for things, and okay, it's fine if that's plain, you know, it's just the little tutorial section, but even when you get to the outside world, it looks very plain. Again, others might, you know, disagree with me on this, but I feel like Odyssey, I don't mean to bring up Odyssey again, but Odyssey looked very, very, very interesting visually. And the level of creativity, at least, again, not for the levels themselves and how they play, but the design just doesn't feel quite to that same standard. When you're in a smaller area, like when you go in these little challenge rooms that are very reminiscent of the ones in Mario Odyssey. Again, bringing up Odyssey again, but it's necessary. Things get a lot more visually interesting there.
Excuse me, I got a potassium deficiency. I need a banana.